Hello everyone, it's Monday Night Live with Lance. I just want to touch on a few things before we welcome our guest, Dr. Carrie Hayward, who's a magician. And I'll explain to her a bit more about who she is and how she goes about it in a second. But just following on from last week, I did bring up the fact of the position and the challenges that I was facing, and I was having a bit of a rough time. And I do just want to thank everyone that messaged, emailed, rang, just to check in and make sure everything was okay. And I do appreciate that. By the time I got to my desk and start work on Tuesday morning, I probably would have had about 100 emails, messages, and calls and voicemails. So I do appreciate the support, and it just shows the fact that the more open we can be with ourselves and our story and how we're feeling, no matter what platform you have and how you experience that, the more open we are, the more open it is for everyone else to be able to recognise the fact that what's going on, and that we do need a little bit of we need love and support, no matter what day it is. So, and it's continued through the week, and I'm very lucky and very grateful for the platform that we have at Love Me Love You to be able to share those experiences. But please know that I share those experiences in my life and to the people in my crew. We talk about the support crew a lot. I do share that as much as I possibly can. And it's just sometimes it needs to be recognised from others that you might be going through a bit of a challenging time. So I do appreciate that. In the week that's been Love Me Love You, we've had a big week, obviously, with our online programs. So please get involved, reach out to us. We've got our Lifetime of Wellbeing, which is a self-directed learning program online, and our Welfare Warrior training, which is we're very excited that the first course, which is will be going in the webinar type session, classroom session, will be going live tomorrow night, where it's all booked out, and there are spaces to be for the next courses. So the next 2 or 3 courses, I think, are live now and open for spots. So if you want to get involved with that, please contact us, and we'll also put the links in to get involved. So looking forward to that. We've had an amazing amount of support from, we're talking about our corporates, our sponsors, philanthropists, and now we need to be able to get into our work into the sports clubs and schools. So obviously a tricky space in Victoria, more metro Melbourne, with the schools having to go remote again. But, we're here to help, and let us get involved with making a difference to your people and your community. So without further ado, I am going to welcome the superstar, Dr. Carrie Haywood. And here is a little bit of a bio of her. Amazing. Dr. Carrie Hayward has been a practicing clinical psychologist for 13 years. Amazing. You must have started that when you were about 10, Carrie. Currently runs her own private practice, Haywood Psychology, in Albert Park, where she works with adults who present with a range of psychological issues. Carrie specialises in acceptance and commitment therapy, which we'll go into later about how that works, which is a mindfulness-based therapy. ACT is a framework to help people more effectively handle the pain and distress that life inevitably brings in order to live a rich and meaningful life. Carrie also runs a mindfulness and wellness studio in Albert Park called A Place to Be, which I'm excited to be able to get to when life opens again, formerly known as Madam Heat, which is home to many wellness teachers and practitioners in the community. About to launch her first book, an author, Carrie, well played, The Woman Who Lost the Sun, which is the first book in the Being Human series, which I have seen, and I'm very excited to be able to see what the world looks like for that. So this is a collection of short stories that use metaphor to explain the psychological challenges that are innate to the human condition and simplify what it means to live a purposeful and meaningful life. And more importantly, her greatest role in life is to be a mother of her 3 amazing kids. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well. Great. Very happy to be here.
Very happy. You are locked in at A Place to Be. Are you at the moment?
I am here at the moment, feeling lucky to be here, given the situation at the moment. But it's my new home, which is really nice.
It's very, very exciting. The new chapter of life, and keep evolving and keep working that magic. So, and you're a big supporter of Love Me Love You. for the last few years now. Big part of our Love Me, Love You collective, which helps make sure that we're up to date with what we're doing and further programming and resource to the community. So people want to get involved with Carrie, will need to reach out. Please contact us, and we'll give those details at the end as well. So thanks very much. How are you coping? How's COVID? How's COVID, Carrie, looking?
Look, it's just a day by day experience, really, isn't it? I mean, going into this recent isolation period, felt a little bit deja vu like. I think the fact that we didn't go quite back to no restrictions at all helped there be less a leap. And I know, our clients have certainly found that to some degree as well. But it certainly has its challenges, as it does for everyone.
And homeschooling?
Yes, got to homeschooling.
Yes, how's that?
Look, it's they're lucky ages in that they're still. I've got a grade 1 and grade 3, so their workload's not huge, and they need assistance. That's probably the hardest part. They're not totally self-sufficient with it, but look, you just, as I said, take it day by day, and I think it's about doing whatever you can manage, and that the schools are really accepting and supportive of that. So and second, and 2.0 COVID 2.0 homeschooling is what I hear is a lot better than the first go. Well, yeah, they've definitely clearly listened to a lot of feedback from families. So things have been modified, and there's flexibility there. And as I said, generally the schools are doing a phenomenal job. They're so supportive and so flexible with each family's different situation. So that's hugely supportive. But it does feel easier. You know what you're doing this time around. You've got your systems in place, and you know it works or it doesn't work. And the kids, they're generally, kids are they're so adaptable and so resilient in so many ways. So
So it is a big hats off to all the people involved in the schooling system at the moment, because it's quite a challenging experience, and making sure, as I said, that they're all doing an amazing job. And I think this is the opening up to feedback, adapting that sort of system has been amazing. And I think that's a learning experience that we can all take, because they're not always open to feedback, some people. But it's obviously just trying to make sure that everything's better or working better for everybody involved, and for all those parents or people having to do the homeschool, hats off to you, because you're all doing an amazing job. And you talked about that level of expectation. I think that is now, because they've lost half a year of face contact through school. So kids in the VCE. We're experiencing that with Alexander, my oldest, who's now able to go back to kinder, but I'm trying to get him the idea of thinking to get ready for primary school. But he's very lucky that he's allowed to go back to kinder. But that whole experience of him understanding that, trying to tell a 4.5-year-old that they can't go to the park and play because is quite a challenging. But as you said, they're very adapting. And levels of resilience in all these kids has been amazing to see. I think it's really cool. So mindfulness, obviously, it's not a thing that has just been invented overnight, Carrie. And they talk about mindfulness. Here is a definition that I found. Mindfulness derives from sati, a significant element of Buddhist traditions, and based on Zen, Vipassana, and Tibetan meditation techniques. Is that right?
Not quite how I would define it, but that's right.
That's not what I thought it was either, but thank you, Google, and that's what comes up. But this leads into the fact of what is mindfulness? What is it? The fact, because a lot of people talk about it. There's there's an Instagram. There's the Instagram coaches that do all this amazing work. It's been said, but what is it, and how do we make it work for us?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and you're right. The concept is everywhere, and I think there's been almost a bit of mindfulness fatigue in many ways because the word is thrown out there and used so much. And I think what's complicated things is that there are so many definitions, and there's not really one way to define it. How I define it is very simply, it's an awareness process. It's paying attention to what's happening right now on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the attention, awareness part, the right now part, and the on purpose part. That's key there.
Yeah. And then, look, I understand the mindfulness. It's the foundations of your self-awareness of the presence.
Yeah, and look, sometimes it actually can be helpful to explain what it's not, in the sense what we're doing when we're not mindful. So our natural state of being is to be in our inner experience. Okay, so in our minds and that internal voice and what our minds are doing, and obviously our emotional experience as well. So we are naturally in that and reactive from that. So that's when we're not mindful, which is not all bad. You know, half the time when we're in that internal experience and reacting from that works for us. It's fine. But there's a large part of the time where it's not working for us. So mindfulness is the ability to be aware of that, and particularly aware of when our reactions to those internal experiences aren't working for us.
Yeah. Obviously, people link mindfulness with meditation, but mindfulness is the informal practice. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the process. Yeah. So we are experiencing, practicing mindfulness through meditation. So we do meditation, we be mindful. Yeah, is a helpful way to think about it. So therefore, mindfulness goes beyond meditation. Yeah, and it's a very, very common. The two are used synonymously, which is very common, which has consistence a lot.
Yeah, and that's correct, because that's people's understanding in the community, that the fact that that's the one and the same, but it's not. So mindfulness practice is your everyday, your every movement, your every experience, and making that work. And obviously, the practice of meditation brings you back into it to a point, but you need to be able to use that moving forward in your every experience. And we talk about people ask me, so like I will meditate before I train every morning. When I get up every morning, I'll do a little short meditation practice, but then I actually then carry that forward when I'm on my bike, and I will understand the mindfulness component and bring that to how am I feeling, what's it feeling, what's it going, how do I push, how do I make it, how I've already reacted to that. Those sorts of things. And for me, that works, and then it sets up my day. Because then I am more present, and I am more understanding of what am I feeling right now, how have I learned that from experience. And obviously, the more mindful we are, the quicker we learn from those experiences, the better we can move forward. This is correct.
Yeah, and that's happening at a neurological level. Yeah. Because that tension muscle is being built through meditation. Yeah. But you're also, having practiced that, you're also more consciously mindful well from that. So it's happening at those two levels, which is why meditation can be very powerful to become more mindful.
Done the right way.
Yeah.
Then you said there's lots out there and lots of programs, but how do people know what's of true substance? Like how do we know we're getting the value for the buck?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one. Look, I think possibly if you're looking for a mindfulness program or any kind of training in that space, probably personal recommendations are the key. You can do your research, I guess, and there's many different ways to becoming a mindfulness trainer, because there's not a qualification as such. So people come to it many different ways.
So you can't go get a certificate after 4 weeks of training? No? Okay. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And as I said, because it is such a broad practice and concept, then people teach it so differently as well. So it's not even just a matter of, well, what is quality versus not quality. It's what, style is going to suit you and what your intention is for learning it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that brings us to the challenges of that people face when first starting and understanding it and understanding the concept of it, and then trying to practice and then get it into their everyday life so that they become just a conscious thing that they're part of. What are the hurdles people face, do you think? What is the biggest hurdle, do you think?
The mind.
Exactly. That's what it is. Everything.
Our humanness works against us so much. So such a big part of practicing, learning mindfulness is understanding how our minds do work. So it's understanding, I guess, the human condition and the wiring that makes us think the way we think and feel the way we feel and do what we do. But in particular, getting really familiar with your own mind. The more familiar we are with the real habits of our mind and the tendencies, which obviously is such an individual experience, then the easier it will be to be mindful, basically. Because, as I said, our default is not to be. And so we naturally get thrown off, we naturally react, we naturally are distracted, we are naturally, in our heads a lot of the time. And that's going to be our biggest hurdles, really. Mindfulness is a very basic skill. It's just a noticing process. It's a noticing and a coming back process is really what it is. The hardest part about it is remembering to be mindful, is even thinking about being mindful. So that the process is very simple. It's actually just getting in the practice of even thinking about it during the day.
The process is simple, and why have we complicated it?
Because the mind's complicated it. So the mind is complicated. Some more complicated than others, I would like to believe.
Michelle just says here, if you're not being present, then you are living in the past. What do you think?
Or future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The past is the living. We can't change, and you can't foresee what's going to go on in the future. So presence is all we have.
Yeah, and that would be very, very commonplace at the moment. With the uncertainty we're facing at the moment, there'll be a lot of us spending a lot of time in the future.
Yeah. So it is bringing it up in these current times. The ridiculous amount of challenges that people are facing right now, and for the last 4 to 5 months, and understanding, there's losses of jobs, there's relationship issues, financial issues, loss of identity. How are we bringing this back? Like, how do we overcome? How do we face up to the challenge of this and make sure that being mindful and practicing the mindfulness brings us back?
Yeah. Well, I think the first step is to, again, notice what's coming up for us, and normalize, notice and normalize whatever it is that we're experiencing in that moment, particularly in reaction to what is going on around us, that might be very personal for our own life, is completely appropriate and expected. And so we need to allow for that, make room for that. And even if there is that reactive part of us that's happening in reaction to what's going on in our moment, again, we're not fully in control of that. That's the mind actually trying to deal with this. So we need to be gentle on ourselves, allow for the fact that there is going to be hardness in all of that. And the coming back part is ultimately trying to find what is available still to us in this moment, in this day, in this period that we're going through, which is a big process. Big
process. You said it, that self-awareness. What about when I have the absolute stinker of a day? You wake up and it's just like, what happened? I've just got out of bed. How come I feel like this? What's a trigger? Like, I like to believe there's triggers that we can do, right? In terms of flipping that mindset and how that works. And obviously mindfulness is a component of that, putting yourself into a practice, being aware of it, being conscious, triggering yourself into that position. How do I start my day? How do I get up out of bed like bang? Is it my first movement, or is it actually before what I do before I go to bed?
Very good question. Probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of both. I guess at the moment, a big part of what's been helpful with dealing with our day-to-day and the uncertainty and the change and not knowing really what's going to happen next is structure.
Yeah.
And having some level of planning in our day, particularly when for many of us what usually creates that planning and structure has been taken away.
Yeah.
If that's the job that's changed or working from home, it's different. But that won't necessarily allow me to feel like getting out of bed in the morning. It won't necessarily make me feel energetic and motivated and embracing the day. So there needs to be, again, just noticing that's how I'm feeling in that moment and connecting to the next first step.
Yeah.
And why that matters. Which might just be right now I'm just going to do the next thing, whether that be have a shower, whether that be get the kids out of bed, step by step. And we know that when we do start moving and we do start taking action, we do start to actually feel a little bit different. So motivation comes from action, not the other way around.
Yeah.
But just be gentle, as I said. I think if it's one of those days, and we all have one of those days, it's being really realistic with what is appropriate. What your day might look like that's an appropriate level for what you're feeling. So being flexible with how you can go about your day in a way that is going to be, the most compassionate for yourself and, as I said, connecting to really what matters and really how you want to show up and how you go about that.
Yeah. Well, do you get it wrong?
Totally. Absolutely.
This is the thing. Like we always look to people, obviously experts in their field and making it work, but we're still. You brought it back to the fact we're human, and the human mind still is an amazingly powerful thing.
Yeah.
But learning how to work with it for the benefit of yourself as opposed to the detriment. Who is Warwick, your amazing husband? He recognises those certain the times or moments in you that you might be a little bit off, or
we're very similar actually in that we both probably just retreat and go quiet. So that's how we pick up on each other is we're either stressed or tired. So there's just I think with many years of knowing someone and being with that someone, you just learn to give them that space and recognise what they need.
Recognise what they need.
Yeah.
And giving that space. We talk about that and creating that space as well. So both to give and to create. Sometimes you need to allow people to be in their own space and make sure that it's working for them. But you need to recognise it also in yourself and be able to maybe say that. Do you think? What about when someone says like, "Oh, I just need some space." Got to be obviously respectful of that, but then when's the right time to come back in? Do you think? Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
Simple as it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, we're all pretty intuitive, and as I said, when it's somebody that we know very well, but I think there's so much in the importance of communication around that too.
Yeah.
What do you need? What do you need right now? Do you want a cup of tea? It's simple as that. Picking up something else in terms of household chores and just doing it. Out in that way.
Yeah. Then you said, and ask. Just ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
What can I do for you right now? It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's amazingly powerful, and it's not reinventing the wheel with what we're saying right now. But it's some people still have that battle with asking the fact instead of always trying to throw advice, trying to throw things. Obviously, I mean that obviously leads us into the acceptance and commitment therapy, which is your go-to, the specialty. Explain. Give the people something.
Okay. So here we go. Look, it's really a lot about what I have already explained in terms of mindfulness. It's a mindfulness-based therapy. So it's learning the mindfulness process again to become aware of what is your experience in the moment, and it's building that kind of global awareness. So as I said, getting really familiar with the patterns, the habits of your own mind, and developing that awareness around your emotional self and experience, but in particular, bringing that to the moment. So we can know generally what we often think and feel, but naming that and noticing it in that very moment is a very different experience. And what that allows us to do is to step back and have choice, which allows us to then come back to ultimately thinking about the person we want to be, which is connecting to our personal values and the qualities we want to bring to ourselves and others. And by connecting back to that and having choice over how we live by that, that's what allows us to experience meaning and purpose in our moment. So
purpose. That's got me. You spoke about that. You mentioned about choice and people making that choice and taking that choice. But I do a lot of for myself when I was in my recovery phase and finding my way, and was around understanding the power of choice and what that actually does for us in terms of that capacity just to take ownership. Is that right? Am I?
Yep. Right on track.
Perfect. Because it is, and that's the thing when we talk about people who go through stressful situations or people that are just striving for goals in terms of their goal setting. You're making that choice for yourself and how you go about it. You can just say, it's nice enough to say, I want to do this, but you've generally got to feel that power of you making that choice and putting the plans in place, and itemizing it, working at work and planning yourself. But you said about accepting the fact that the experiences sometimes don't work the way you want them to work, and that's like most days.
Well, exactly. And it's recognizing we don't have full control over our internal experience, which we often mistakenly think we do. But the biggest destruction comes from when we define ourselves by it. So when my mind is operating a certain way, which can be negative, it does have that negativity bias, and our emotional experience might be uncomfortable, which again often is, we naturally define ourselves by that. And we are also trying to control that. That's kind of our natural state of being. What acceptance commitment therapy is about is accepting that that is happening beyond my control, but it's actually not completely who I am. It's part of my experience, but ultimately who we are is by bringing that choice and awareness back to that core part of ourselves and living that through our behaviour, because our behaviour theoretically is the one thing we can actually control. We try and avoid the word control and act, and that's because it does get so misinterpreted. So it's switching our attention. We are naturally in here reacting to what's going on out here, neither of which we can control. So learning to actually go, okay, that's there, that's my humanness, that's okay, it can be there. Why don't I bring my attention back to what I ultimately can control, which is how I respond, what I do in that moment, and allowing that to be really guided by that ownership, as you said, those qualities I want to live by, the person I want to be to myself and others and the world around me. Unfortunately, we're just not wired to be that way. So that's where the mindfulness comes in. We need to do it consciously because our minds are not doing it for us.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, and you said you're bringing it back to try not to use the word control because everyone likes to be in control.
Yeah.
You do. And that's how you think. And then when you feel out of control, you feel obviously the anxiety levels rise in people, and they go.
Yeah.
How do I bring myself back? Because I like to be sometimes out of control. I actually do because because it means that there's a level of vulnerability in that for me without not being in control.
Yeah.
And being allowing that to happen. It's actually quite powerful.
Yep.
I believe.
If you're allowing it though, you're probably not out of control with it.
There you go. Well, that's why you're the doctor and I'm me. So thank you very much. But this is obviously a big subject in the male world in terms of vulnerabilities. We talk about the true signs of a man or a male in their character is to be able to show those vulnerabilities, but still society deems it to be that you're an emotional wreck if you do show that. How are we overcoming these historically wrong theories, but historical theories that that's how a man should be?
Well, you're making a very good start, and you're doing a lot in that space. And I said this to you the other day. You model that, and I think the more people, whether it's people in the public space, or whether it's a father modeling it to their children, particularly their sons, that's the best way we learn.
Yep.
Through that modeling behaviour. And I think so we just need to keep supporting it in any way we can. And I think it's understanding that when there is awareness of whatever that emotional experience is and that vulnerability, there's just huge strength in that, because basically what we're doing is we're stepping back from the reactive self and that ego that might want to control it and want to put on this front and facade and avoid and do all those things. If we can step back and actually go, it's there and that's okay, that's my humanness. There's so much strength in that.
Yeah.
There's so much courage in that. And again, it's reframing it and allowing the strength to be seen in that, because it's hugely empowering to be able to do that. Hugely
empowering. And as I said, the more I share, the more I can keep one for me, and then that is out there as well. It's you said it brings it back to the strength and courage, which two values of the way we go about things that all people want to be associated with in terms of the strength of mind and strength of heart and being courageous in their position. And I think we are every day showing those traits by just rocking up, showing up. It's even those days, as I said, there's moments of those days that you don't want to, but just by showing up, you are showing an amazing amount of strength and courage to live this life, because we said away from the COVID experience, life is extremely challenging, and it is, and it's finding your way and working it, and then finding your purpose. How to maintain that sense of purpose, Carrie? How do we do this?
Particularly now, yeah. Look, that's been a big issue I've seen amongst people, and obviously that can be when there's been job loss.
Yep.
Or even job changes, but not even jobs. It's socially, people's social experience is so different, and physical activity, the way that people exercise. So basically, I mean, what these restrictions have done is they've taken away a lot of our what in our lives, the what we can do. Okay. Unfortunately, again, we're very wired on the what in our lives. So when that has been changed and that's, it's been taken away from us to some degree, there's an immediate struggle with that. So we need to bring our attention back to the how and the why. And what I mean by that is the what in its isolation actually doesn't give us meaning. So our job in isolation actually doesn't give us meaning.
Yeah.
Even our social experiences in itself does not give us meaning. What gives us meaning is how we show up in them. And the why, So, for instance, somebody who has lost their job might be struggling in terms of feeling productive. They might be struggling because maybe they're very creative in their job. Maybe it's helping people in their job. So the job's changed or been taken away, yet the values are still there. The job in itself, as I said, does not give meaning. It's what the person brings to the job. And the wonderful thing about that is that still exists. That can never be taken away. So what I've been working with a lot of people around is finding how they can still live those values throughout their day. Again, socially, obviously there's many different ways to still live connection and supporting and being there for others. It just needs to look different. And because it's going to look different, it doesn't mean it's going to give us exactly the same emotional experience. So I may not get as much enjoyment out of Zooming my friends as I do being at a dinner in person with them. But if I'm conscious of what's actually meaningful about that and showing up with that, then it can actually be just as meaningful. Not emotionally the same, but meaningful. So we're looking at meaningful here. Yeah. And again, we're sort of wired to look out here, what's in my life, and in particularly what's comfortable or not comfortable, what, gives the good feelings, and to avoid the bad feelings. And we miss what's actually meaningful. So it's coming back to that.
Yeah.
And it's always available to us. We just need to be, again, really conscious of how.
Conscious of how.
100%.
What's your reason why, Carrie?
In what I do, or
your life?
The meaning of life.
Your life. There's the thing. Like we ask people, and people ask me what my reason why is, and my reason why is family. And that's the most. And I do say that most with my heart, full-heartedly, because having attempted suicide and thought that life was better off without me, just over 8 years ago, that. I have an amazing family. My mum and dad, brother and sister, amazing family for me to be connected into, and I love it. But I nearly lost that, and then now my family of my beautiful wife and Emma and my two amazing boys, they're my reason why. And attach myself to that as a motivation. You talk about purpose. That's the connectedness to the how and the why. I go about it and how I do my things, not what. What's your reason why?
Yeah. Absolutely family, and ultimately human connection.
Yeah.
So family comes into that, and it goes beyond that. And family is obviously, extended beyond blood relatives.
Yeah.
It's coming back to ultimately why we are here, and that is human connection.
Yeah.
And again, that's the why, and the how in that is, okay, well, how do I want to be as a mother? How do I want to be as a partner? How do I want to be as a friend? How do I want to be as a daughter? How do I want to be all those different hats and roles?
Yeah.
The why is what's really important to me, and the how is, well, how do I show up with that? And the consciousness part of that is just so important, because Lance, we live so many values throughout our day. We live so many whys throughout our day. But the problem is we are not connected a lot of the time. And in particularly, we are not connected to those hows.
Yeah.
So if we peel it all away, you know, and I often go through this process with clients where we'll map out a really ordinary day. And at the moment, we are living a lot of ordinary days, you know, with days where there's not much what going on, okay? Yeah. But if we peel away the small actions we take, there is always a value there. And if we bring consciousness to that and consciousness to how we want to show up in that, suddenly there is so much meaning in the day. Yeah. But again, it has to be a conscious process because we're just not naturally wired for it.
Which brings us back to being more mindful, Carrie, of our experiences and everything about it and who we are and how we connect those relationships. And it's, as you said, it's, I was talking to someone the other day about the definition between busy and productive. And everyone, the badge of honour of being busy and filling life up with work or social experiences, the exercise, everything that it is, and in becoming so busy, and it all gets muddled up in one another without actually being there. You've done it. You got to the end of the day and you've gone, what did I do today? You know what I mean? Like, you get a question, you go, oh, what'd you do today? Well, don't know.
Yeah.
But obviously, you said bringing it back. It's making it more meaningful experiences. You know, and appreciating it. And but obviously, technology takes away from our capacity sometimes to be more present and meaningful in our position. There's good parts, there's not so good parts. What technology does, it's you know, but as you said, it's, you know, one of my most powerful things that I like doing is having no phone time. You know, and what's really sad is the fact that I have to consciously do no phone time.
Yeah,
this is the world we're living in. But we talk about with the kids growing up, the amount of time through technology and social media and it's hurting, it's impacting because the level of information that they're trying to take in and without, you said, being in the actual experience. Because you know, even you go on the train, the tram, or wherever you are, you walk around. Even you go to dinner, it's just everyone's in their phones.
Yeah,
or in there without being. You talk about bringing back to that experience of all the good things that are. So, what do we? You talk about values a bit, yeah, in terms of the value that one you bring, the value that you live by. Obviously, we do a lot. We do a bit about values with the Love Me Love You programs and talking about that, and how important is it to have these types of conversations with kids or the youth? You know, do you talk about that with your three munchkins, or how are we acting with this?
Oh yeah, gosh, a lot. You know, just today, the two playing football, and I was trying to teach them the value of, you know, sportsmanship, and oh gosh, it's endless, isn't it, as a parent? Yeah, look, it's in terms of technology, was that the question, or? No,
just life values.
Okay.
The value of what we do.
I mean, again, yes, look, a conversation is so important, and how you do that is challenging depending on the age group, I guess. But really, as I referred to before, in modelling probably is the most important way and the most effective way of instilling values. On our children, but I guess of anyone. And yeah, I mean, coming back to, you know, the phone thing, it's something I'm so conscious of and something that I don't get right a lot of the time. You know, I mean, I actually said to my children the other day, I said, can you let me know if you think I'm on this too much?
Yeah.
You know, and it was just a very simple, if I have reached for it, you know, because that can be so automatic and so mindless, just let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know. Because what you're doing there, you know, I guess you're making yourself a little bit accountable, but also you're teaching them that how important it is for us to be aware of that, because they're, mine, as I said, mine is still pretty young. They don't have phones yet, but I'm terrified about when they're at that stage and the addictive nature is just going to really just get worse and worse. And teaching them to the need to be aware of that is all we can really do, because we can't, unfortunately, as much as I would love to rewind the clock and go back 50 years without the technology, we can't. So coming back to the bigger question with values, it's communication and living it yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, I talk, the way that I talk to clients and people about this is we are ultimately bringing the focus back to living the value, because that's the person we want to be, okay? Because that's what develops a secure sense of self. And if we have a secure sense of self, then we are able to, we basically have the confidence and the belief that we can deal with life. And that allows us to then experience the meaning in life. It's...
Okay. I like it. It is. It's bringing back to the purpose of what you're doing, how you want to act and how you behave, and then it keeps you accountable to those actions and those experiences and making it through. But the role modeling component of it is huge, because the mirror behaviours that kids see, the kids act out because seeing that mum and dad or auntie, uncle, grandparents, coaches, teachers, the whole thing, in terms of those people living their different values. Which brings me to the our reactions through media and social media. The importance of being conscious of our response, because we do see so much, and you just see, you see so much anger, you see so much hate, you see so much trauma, violence. It's how we bring it back. How do we?
Well, look, I think. I think one of the most important things we can do is, if we're talking about news and media specifically, is recognise just how much of a misrepresentation that can be at a global scale. So we know that that's not the full picture, and the news and media is geared for focusing on what's sort of provocative and attention grabbing and all that stuff, which is often negative. It's often negative. So that's what they're there for. That's their job. That's what the media need to report. But we need to be able to, again, just take a step back and recognise that is not the full picture. And that's how we deal with, I guess, the potential sort of overwhelmingness we can feel by all the negativity.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely metaphor for our minds as well.
Yeah.
Our mind also has that negativity bias, and so
it does.
Mind is a little bit like media there. But otherwise, it's and I guess what I'm seeing, or particularly noticing so much in the particularly social media at the moment, is people's behaviour in response to these restrictions, and they're highlighted and they're splashed all over social media, and it's amazing the judgment that can come up.
Yeah.
And again, we're wired for that. We're all wired to judge. That's part of protecting the ego and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's a really, really helpful skill to, again, notice that and make a choice. Because even when, these people, or what we see, we see one comment. We see one comment from someone on social media, or even, on the news, wherever it might be. That is such a small, tiny part of that whole person, of their whole story, of their whole context, of what's going on for them. And the mind will just judge the behaviour.
Yeah.
And maybe it's allowed to judge the behaviour. Maybe but what we've got to be careful of is judging the person.
Yeah.
And what's a really important skill is being able to separate the person from behaviour.
Mm.
When we respond or react to somebody else, but also when we actually respond and react to ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that in answer to your question, to be more conscious of dealing with that, social media and the bigger media.
Yeah.
To just be able to step back and notice that and make choice.
Yeah.
How do I respond to this?
Yeah. As Michelle says, because we all have choices in how we respond or react to media in general, or how it experiences in general. We have a choice in how we respond or react, and if you're throwing judgment on people as opposed to behaviour.
Exactly.
We talk about we don't know why that person's in that position. Maybe something that's happened, an experience, or a build up of something that's happened that's brought them to that. That's the way they've behaved.
Well, exactly. And I mean, most people are not wanting to do wrong or wanting to do harm, and so it's not even just separating behaviour from person, but also behaviour from intent is a big one I talk about. We don't know what someone's intention is, and usually it's not directly bad in the way we're perceiving it, but
yeah. And it's seen a little bit lately where there's certain people that have trying to make a big issue of, they talk about the masks with people, filming the fact of what's going on, filming that experience. There was the one the other day with the girl in the car, not asking. It's what would happen. This is my gets my goat. What would happen if it was the other way? Imagine it was that Bunnings person went and filmed the person in the public, or whatever that police officer was about to film that person in the public and share that. There would have been absolute uproar. There would have been absolute uproar in that experience. And I think people just need to, I said it last week, we just need to play our role. There's things in place, we don't always get it right. And obviously we're seeing that at the moment. It hadn't got it right the first time, but everyone's just trying their best.
Absolutely.
Everyone's not meaningfully going out and trying to stuff things up just for fun. It's not
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not how it works. It's just So as I said last week, in the same, and I'll say again, that we just need to play our role. Everyone just needs to do their thing, what they need to do, because I don't want to have to be having this same type of conversation in 6 months' time. And the current stage we're in, this might be a reality for people in Metro Victoria, Metro Melbourne. So it's, it's as you said, bringing it back to the behaviour and the purpose that you want to live this life by, and make sure you're connecting to it in the right reasons, not so you can get that 5 minutes of fame, because it's not good fame. It's you're putting yourselves out there, and this goes back to the social media and being more mindful of our experiences. That we are all a brand. We're all a living, walking brand, no matter what. Because you have social media platforms, everything you put out there is a promotion of who you are, or what your experience has been. So, and it's up to you what you want to put out there. But I think it's having a bit of a mindset, a positive mindset about what life is. Not just trying to fire up people and cause debates and all these sorts of things, just to create a bit of self-worth. You talked about before, finding that purpose, because it's one of my pet hates. But anyway, Carrie, I could talk to you forever because you're an absolute jet. But I'm going to be mindful of the fact that you get back to the family, and Warwick's probably got a foot massage waiting for you on the couch. But
yeah, I say dinner on the stove, but either be great.
Just something, please. But we always have the questions, and we finish off. But it's been amazing. I think for those people out there that have been watching and commenting like they do every week, your insight into this world is it's just shown, and I appreciate everything that you're about and the support that you give. Love me, love you, and myself, because as you said, you're one of those people that did contact me during the week and make sure we're just checking in, and you do that on a regular basis, so I appreciate that. What would you tell your 15-year-old self, Carrie?
Oh, big one. I would tell her shy, very shy, 15-year-old Carrie. That's probably pretty normal. Adolescence is hard. Yeah, what you're going through is pretty typical for that age, and there's a big path ahead.
Yeah.
And the best is yet to come.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you want to was that your thing when you were 15, 16? When did you decide that psychology was going to be your space?
It wasn't conscious. So, yeah, it wasn't conscious. I studied psychophysiology and then realised I liked the psychology part. But I think in hindsight, it was probably, they say psychologists become a psychologist to work on them, selves, to work on their own stuff. Yeah. Which again, not conscious, but maybe in hindsight, I was incredibly shy.
Cool.
That was
Who does Dr. Carrie Hayward, the psychologist, who do you see when you need help? This is not a question.
Who do I need help?
Who do you go to? Because you said it's a person you think or should be on top of things and nothing should ever get to me. But everyone needs help. Everyone needs support. Everyone needs a level of guidance or.
Yep.
Who's that?
It would be right partner, family, friends.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. What does mateship mean to you?
Speaking of which.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely being there. It's someone who you feel like you're coming home to.
Yeah.
And that you feel you can be completely yourself. And then unconditional acceptance of that, I think.
Yeah.
But, whatever it looks like, that might just be someone who you just absolutely, makes your heart just pound in that moment.
I like it. I like it. Heart pounding mateship.
Yeah.
What would you tell your friend? So take professional hat off. What would you tell your friend or family member, loved one who was battling a mental health challenge?
I would tell them that they're absolutely not alone, and not even just in the sense that I'm there and then who else is there, but they're not alone in dealing with what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
That they're still there, in that there is the challenge that they might be experiencing, but they are still there beyond that. And then obviously to seek some help. That's where the professional would come in.
There you go. Perfect. That's where it brings us back to our no one travels their journey alone. We're in this together. And I think it's really important for people to understand that. But you said before about the human connectedness part is what we thrive off and we need, and we're so loving about. But our first usual signs of when going through challenges is withdrawal. Step back, but I need to be able to step forward. It's very powerful being able to do it. It takes a lot of practice and courage and strength, but we are here and we're living it and we're still here. Yeah. What tools, activities do you implement to help keep you balanced? What's your life look like away from a place to be, being a mother of 3?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Definitely exercise, a 3-pronged approach: exercise, stretch, meditation.
Yeah. Cool.
3-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Going to bed with a book every night. One of my favorite things to do.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
My new cold water immersion I was telling you about earlier.
You brought that back. It's I really live down near Albert Park there. It's straight dip in. You talk about wasn't the experience of being in there. It wasn't too bad, but it was trying to get changed on the way out. That was the hardest part of it.
I think we were smart, put it that way.
Cool. That shower when you got home would have been amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about the cold water emerging sort of stuff. It does a bit of a wake up to the senses and the body. And
it's a cold shower. I've been doing that for years, and that's phenomenal stuff today.
Yeah. you're definitely going to be a bit present when you're having a cold shower. That's for sure. There's if you think you're going to be anywhere else when you're having a cold shower, you're kidding. And then what do you wish for, just to finish off?
Gosh, that's a good question, Lance. Oh, such a big question.
I give the hard questions, Carrie.
Can I give a big answer?
Give me a big answer. You can give me whatever you like.
Look, it would be widespread mindfulness practice, and everyone just have a go at it. I hope our conversation has hinted at just how important it is. So maybe the wish would be for people to be open to that.
Yeah, cool.
And the more the better.
Yeah, which leads me to you're also founder of the Mindful Walk, which we haven't touched on, which we thought we'd finish that with. Last year, we were very lucky to be the partner of the Mindful Walk at Love Me Love You. And for those that don't know anything about it, it is a silent, being present, mindful walk. So it was held at the Botanical Gardens last year, and we had hundreds of people walk in silence together around the Botanical Gardens. It was about 3.5-4K walk, and I still think about it a lot. It was one of the most powerfully moving, emotional experiences that I've had, because I love talking. I'm not too sure if you know that. I really love talking about the being surrounded by people and just feeling the energy of just being there and being with each other. I thought it was the most, as I said, the most powerfully emotional, one of the most powerfully emotional experiences. And I've done a few, but I thought it was amazing. So I do thank you for that. So I was obviously supposed to be again to the end of this year, but obviously the restrictions of life and not allowing that. But the ideas of us moving forward with that into the new year, creating more of a movement with the Mindful Walk, and not just having it as our one event. And you said the practice of people being mindful and getting into it will happen, and we appreciate that. So as well as obviously the money raised, but I think the people that experienced that walk last year, the feedback that I had, the contact that I had post that was huge. So I do thank you from everyone at Love Me Love You and myself. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
It was a wonderful experience. It made it extra meaningful to work.
Was it? You weren't quite so mindful in the week leading up to it. That's for sure.
I know. That was my little joke with people. I probably was the least mindful person there on the day. Everyone has to be mindful, not me.
But there were a lot of activations around the course, and at the end we had, we started with a meditation practice, and at the end just finished with one, and people hanging around and sharing their stories. And as I said, I spoke on that day about why we're here and what we do, and my experiences in life, and the amount of people that come up to me that were there that I didn't know, that shared their experiences of the challenges of life that they've been through, and the devastation that they've been a part of, the family members or friends that they've lost to suicide. But we keep talking about, and we need to keep creating this space for people to be able to share that and come together and making it work. So once again, Carrie, you're an absolute champion. I do appreciate all your support and love, for the foundation and myself. So we will put in the comments about a place to be, obviously with Carrie Hayward at the Hayward Psychology, and the fact of the book series, not just a book, series of, and where people can access that, and we'll get that out there, and we really appreciate it. So it's very powerful stuff. So thank you very much, Carrie. You're a champion.
Thanks, Lance. It's been an absolute pleasure and honour. So really love it today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Cheers and bye. So remember, next week, 7:30, we have Sugar Cane Watts, who's an Australian, I think a world champion in boxing. So please get involved with that next week. So I appreciate that. And hopefully people, please, if you want to know more about how to be mindful, reach out to us. We can connect you in with the magicians that work with us. And please wake up tomorrow and remember that you are never alone. Appreciate it. Bye. Cheers.